All right, let's bring in Pennsylvania Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, an Iraq War veteran, also a member of the House Rules Committee and the Appropriations Committee. Guy, great to have you back with us.
John, always good to be on. Thank you.
All right, so President Biden said he's not walking anything back after he called for regime change in Russia. Here's that clip.
The fact of the matter is I was expressing the moral outrage I felt toward the way Putin is dealing and the actions of this man. Just brutality. But I want to make it clear, I wasn't then, nor am I now, articulating a policy change. I was expressing the moral outrage that I feel, and I make no apologies for it.
All right, so just a rule of thumb, Guy, anytime you hear President Biden say, let me be clear, it's going to be the opposite of that, right?
About as clear as mud. And what's so funny is Joe Biden is saying he's not walking anything back, while simultaneously in that clip, walking back his comments. Also, you have Jen Psaki, Jake Sullivan, and the rest walking back Joe Biden's comments. Now, the comments themselves are damaging, and here's why. It's really the opposite of Teddy Roosevelt's speak softly and carry a big stick. Because what Joe Biden is doing is he's screaming at the Russians. He's giving Putin ammunition to go back to the oligarchs and say, see, the West is after me. They want to dismantle Russia. They never want us to regain our superpower status. So it's fueling Putin and solidifying his power at home. Simultaneously, Biden is still being weak. If he wants to send a message to Putin, how about you get the MiG-29s from Poland to Ukraine? How about we send more Javelin missiles, more Stinger missiles, small arms? How about we engage in electronic warfare and jam the Russian planes to stop the civilian casualties? Joe Biden can do all of that. But again, he's choosing weakness and vacillation. And just lastly, we heard for 4 years that words matter, that speech is violence. And now we have a president who is not articulate, who is not on message, who is not falling to a point, clarity in messaging. And you hear nothing from the left. Arguably, Joe Biden's words are much more damaging to the war effort than anything else. But the left will give him a free pass. And it's so quickly how they forget their rhetoric that we saw for 4 years of Donald Trump.
Yeah, they'll carry the water for him, too. Let's also talk about the president's budget proposals, because these are pretty radical, as you know here. Here he is talking about that during that news conference as well yesterday. He says they're all about his values.
My dad had an expression. He said, don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget. I'll tell you what you value. Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value. Well, the budget I'm releasing today sends a clear message to the American people that what we value.
And what's that, Guy, that they'd rather, import oil from foreign countries and invest in green energy that's made in China? Is that what they'd rather do? I mean, that's what the budget says to, I think, a lot of people.
Well, I can tell you what the value is. It's going to increase the value of Hunter Biden's billion-dollar Chinese hedge fund. This might be good for the economy. It's just the Chinese economy, and I can explain that. If you look at the tax rates, Joe Biden wants to take the corporate tax rate to above what it is in communist China. It would be devastating. You'd have jobs leaving for China. There's no way we would be able to reshore a lot of the supply chains that were so glaringly obvious that we need to do that during COVID. So China would be a big winner under this budget. The American worker, the American economy would lose with this budget. So Joe Biden can talk about values all he wants, but it's very clear that his values are not on economic growth and certainly are not values that are helpful to the American worker.
Yeah, no Keystone XL pipeline, but Nord Stream 2 is okay. We got to build those Chinese solar panels, which are made with what kind of energy? Coal-fired power plants that power the plants making the solar energy, but I digress.
And while China is bringing all these coal-fired power plants on market, but they're trying to tell us that we should go with wind and solar.
Well, they need to power these. You can't power them with windmills and solar panels because they got to make that stuff and send it over here, and they're building those coal-fired power plants to build those green energy facilities. It's ironic, to say the least. But there's also something very concerning, Guy, in the budget as well, and this is according to Bloomberg News. The U.S. Army's total count of active duty soldiers would fall below 1 million in 2023 as part of a new budget proposal in this Biden budget here. The Army's procurement budget will drop from $22 billion in 2022 to $21 billion. It's a 6.5% reduction. But can we afford to be cutting our military at this time?
No, and this is just typical Joe Biden. It's typical leftist policy. We're at a time now where the West is at war with with Russia. This is like the Cuban Missile Crisis, or the Cuban Missile Crisis extended for 4 or 5 weeks. And at the same time, we're not just dealing with the Soviet Union or the Russian Federation now. We also have a China that's run by a communist party that has said openly they want to replace us as the world superpower. They want to project power into the Pacific to rival our hegemony in the Pacific. And what does Biden do? What do the Democrats do? They draw down military spending. We should be looking to a 500 fleet Navy to combat China as they expand. We should be looking at growing our capabilities, not shrinking the armed services.
And to paraphrase Lloyd Benson here, Senator Biden, you're no Jack Kennedy. And of course, that debate from 1988, going way back in the throwback machine there. Great to see you, Guy Reschenthaler, Congressman from Pennsylvania. Take care.